This is the School-Wide Approach to Multicultural Education by Megan Hoskin, Andrea Frank, Bridget Tooley, and Michelle Krupa.
What is multicultural education? Well, according to our readings in our book, multicultural education is a process of comprehensive school reform and basic education for all students. It challenges and rejects racism and other forms of discrimination in schools and society. It permeates schools' curriculum and instructional strategies, as well as the interactions among teachers, students, and families.
Why is it important at Milburn? When we broke down the ethnic backgrounds of the LEP students in our ELL program, we found that there were Spanish 2%, American Indian 0.04%, Asian 10%, Palestinian 5%, the African American 0.01%, white were 40%, which consisted of the Polish and Romanian. And due to our screening tool, many of the students from India, Palestine, marked white as their race, so the numbers are a bit skewed between Asian and white. We spent time interviewing the families, and they often provided us with more background information. This has helped us identify many of the students who came from Palestine and also the reasoning why they moved to the United States.
So we went ahead and we did a multicultural education of our school. So we developed a Google form questionnaire to evaluate where our staff felt that they were on the quality of multicultural education here at Milburn. We gave teachers grades K through 5 a week to complete the form and submit their answers. After we then assessed the information and shared the information at our staff meeting, and we found that most of our staff is aware of the cultural needs of our students, even if that population is small. And what we found most surprising were that only some of our staff knows where to find multicultural curriculum, materials, and other resources. So in addition, only sometimes does the staff attempt to learn the language of their CDL students to help with communication. And lastly, we found that many teachers did not or only sometimes screened media or books for stereotypes or negative culture. So as you can see on the next slide here, here's some of the results that we have. And I would say that most of this is pretty positive, but we still have some work to do as far as making sure our staff knows where to find resources for multicultural education and making sure that they're on board and that they feel comfortable working with some of these resources.
So we decided to do the Palestinian culture in our last presentation because that was our highest demographic here at Milburn. So some of the important things that we took out of that PowerPoint, roles for women and men. Women are the center of the family and usually do not work outside the home. Society is patriarchal. A father is the head of the household and makes all decisions. Schooling in Palestine is one of the most illiterate populations. 70% go to the primary school. The school system is affected by the Israeli occupation, and refugee camps do not have access to education. And as far as the general lifestyle, the Arabic is the primary language, which consists of 28 letters and is written right to left. And the family is the top priority. Elders receive the most respect.
We found that helpful resources for our school would be having translated information sent home to the families, also allowing and getting a translator for meetings, incorporating more books, literature for their culture, also respecting the religious beliefs, understanding time off for school or other things they may need according to their religious beliefs, recognizing the different aspects of their culture, such as personal space, being compassionate of fears and loud noises, understanding their experiences that they had at home that might affect their reaction to different things as the loud noises, educating the majority of our population about Palestine, And when teaching ELA, considering the background of the Arabic versus English, as far as the writing left to right progression and letters also. Understanding family dynamics and roles of men and women is also important to know when making contact with the families.
So we then go into our cultural experience project, which helped us on this journey towards multicultural education. So we decided to go ahead and visit St. Nectarios Greek Orthodox Church in Palatine, Illinois. We were there celebrating the marriage of a coworker, and we thought that this would also be a great opportunity to take this event and learn from it. And I think that's important to also do in the classroom, just learn from the experiences and from each other's cultures. And it really enhanced our cultural knowledge. So,
What was new to us? We learned that the crowning portion of the ceremony is called the Stephana. The Stephana is the sign of glory and honor with which God crowns the bride and groom during the sacrament. Another thing we learned is throughout the ceremony, the priest chanted and sang instead of talking. In the Orthodox Church, the words must be
Melodious.
chanted to ensure that the priest is expressing the purpose and the nature of the words. And the last thing was there were many icons in the church. They are there as a reminder to those who are present in the church that there are saints in heaven. The icons are the windows to heaven.
And what can we provide for our CLD students after this experience? What we really brought back after this great experience was that we need to embrace the culturally responsive teaching. We need to be aware of the changing demographics in our schools, learning about our students' culture, and making other classmates aware of special holidays, traditions, and rituals that others may practice. We also need to have the students possibly ask them to interview one another on their religious beliefs if they have one. We can also remember to hold Cultural Diversity Day in the classroom where students can make posters about themselves, and not only providing just a day but also continuing this throughout the year. The multicultural lesson, reading lesson for third grade that I did was using the story Goodbye 382 Shin Dang Dong by Francis and Ginger Park. The essential question compared and contrast the life in America to a life in Korea. We discussed the background knowledge and the feelings of moving and talked about any of the experiences students may have had moving to a new area. Some of the vocabulary that we had introduced was homesick, memories, described, farewell, and curious. What we did, Miss Megan Hoskin and I, to change our lesson to make it more multicultural was we incorporated some multicultural components. First, with the content integration, we added making sure that we taught the history of immigration. We were able to utilize the real-life accounts and resources, which included videos, interviews, and other stories of real immigrants. We presented all the information, including the both positives and negatives of immigration. We also took time in really defining the vocabulary word immigration. We also added the knowledge construction by really discussing the different perspectives on the immigration process. We were able to talk about both the positive and the negative views of immigration, and this prompted great in-depth conversations and discussions with our kids. Students were also provided well-rounded views on this historical events of Ellis Island and the beginning of the immigration process. What was the result of the multicultural lesson for our third graders? We really found that there was a great higher degree of higher level and critical thinking skills, really being able to dig deeper and discuss the different perspectives of the immigration history and the process allowed the students to really realize that it's important to keep one's heritage alive in a new country. They really were able to put themselves in the shoes of the immigrants and understand where they were coming from. The use of realia gave the better understanding and visualization of the time period and Ellis Island. Students were able to compare immigration then to immigration now.
For kindergarten, my multicultural lesson, I incorporated Arabic into our daily calendar lesson. I used Think, Pair, Share. I also introduced a YouTube video which talked about Arabic numbers along with English, and we did a lot of collaboration among our fellow Arabic and other native speaking students. So I start off my calendar lesson doing the numbers, days of the week, months of the year, and basically we always just do it in English. We have done some in Spanish, and so I introduced some of the numbers in Spanish. Most of the students knew Spanish through Dora the Explorer, but I do have 2 Arabic students in my class, and I wanted them to tell us how to speak and write the Arabic numbers for 1 to 10. That number that day was 3, so they came up and they shared their activity or their number with us, and the students were really excited to hear how to say the word 3 in Arabic. And then we also watched the video on YouTube, which sang the English version of the numbers along with the Arabic version of the numbers. So how did this result for our kindergarten class? The kids were just enthralled and loved the fact that you could speak more languages than just Spanish and English. So it really got us our discussion of how everybody is different no matter what they look like. They can all speak different languages at home, but we all speak the same here at school. And so they were really excited about learning the different culture. So we kind of went into different culture and where different people live and where they can come from, different areas. So the CLD students felt really important that they got to come up and be involved, and the other students were just excited to learn a new language.
So we also had a multicultural lesson in 5th grade with a social studies lesson. So this was talking about Europeans exploring the world. There was an interactive KWL chart that was about Christopher Columbus. There was some vocabulary review with claim and other words. Brain pop. There was a brain pop on Christopher Columbus. We did a jigsaw puzzle activity where students were grouping different letter groups. They were put together and they did a jigsaw activity. We did a Think, Pair, Share activity. There was a PowerPoint of the whole lesson. There's a discussion and an exit slip. So all of these components were already in the lesson. Now, I took that lesson and we incorporated these multicultural components into it. So I added relationally. I had the students role play the interactions between the King and Queen of Spain with Columbus, as well as the interactions Columbus had with the Native Americans. Once the students did this, they really were able to put themselves back in history and understand different perspectives. Role playing allowed them to not only have their perspective, but it gave them more background knowledge, more personal experience, and they were able to express how they felt about the content. As far as curriculum-wise, I had the students watch a read-aloud version of the story Encounter by Jane Yolen. This book provides a completely different perspective on what happened during Columbus's voyage and how he treated the Native Americans. And the book is stated to look at the dark underside of Columbus's voyage, landing on the island of San Salvador, and it forces the students to see 2 sides of the same story and make a decision based on the information that's provided to them. And this story brought up a lot of really good discussion and allowed students to debate which side was truth. As far as the results of the components that I added, talking about role playing, students were able to get up and move. It was more student-centered than before. It helped the students with synthesizing, and it developed their own understanding without me having to lecture them. As far as curriculum-wise, adding this story Encounter by Jane Yolen provided students with a different perspective than they had before, encouraged research. They wanted to look up more about it, and our discussions went much into depth.
So how can our school become more multicultural? We can provide students with the opportunity to share their culture, religion, and traditions to help bring the classroom together. We can involve parents to assist with cultural awareness to help connect home with school. The school itself needs to reflect cultural diversity with painting, pictures, and objects that represent different cultures. We need to make sure we connect culture with curriculum and create a buddy system, good role model for the new students. And this can help embrace new culture and diversity. And also, students need to be socialized in a tolerant and supportive environment that embraces each other's differences and similarities.
And this last page is our references that we used for our presentation. And that is the end of our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it.